Hello, everybody. It's Royce here, and I want to welcome you all to my Royce in the House YouTube channel. Thank you so very much for showing up and joining us and participating. We love participation. We had a fun video on last night. Tom Petty's Last Dance with Mary Jane. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We had a great time making it. Very surprise ending. I think you're going to enjoy it if you go check it out. But tonight we're going to be covering, we were going to be covering the band Traffic, or maybe not so much just Traffic, but all of Stevie Winwood's major bands. I don't want to exclude them because Stevie Winwood was in a lot of great bands, including Blind Faith. So anyway, so we're working on that. But a couple of things happened this week. A couple of real music icons died this week. Icons that I was a big fan of, and we're going to cover that. We're going to cover Sly Stone, Sly and the Family Stone, but we're going to talk about Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys and what their contribution to music has been and how it's going to endure. And we're going to get into all of that, okay? So first thing I want to do is I want to introduce my first two panelists that have showed up. Next to me is my great friend, my dear friend, Michael Nolan, The Bottom Line. And most of us came from his show just moments ago. Michael's got a fantastic show. He's a great content creator. And we really appreciate that we're kind of joined at the hip, to be honest with you. I consider him my sister channel, and he feels the same way about me. And we both do everything we can to, promote one another's shows. And directly below both of us is Chris Elliott. How you doing, Chris?
I'm very good. Yourself?
Oh, well, good, yeah.
Happy Father's Day to you, gentlemen.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. My wife made some amazing Chilean sea bass that was crusted with macadamia nuts and some sauce. And oh my God, it's a miracle I can even sit up right now. It was so good. But it was good. We really enjoyed it. And thank you, all of you. You're a father, Chris, also, or
no?
Oh, you're not? Okay. Well, your time is coming. And Michael, I know you're a father.
I've raised so many kids. Good Lord, I've got, let's see, I got to count them. Let's see, I've got 4 that come from my very loins. I have 3 wonderful 2-step sons, and a daughter. And I'm raising what's left of raising them. My 2 twin nephews who are 18. So, and I helped raise my brothers and my sisters. So I've been raising kids longer than you can shake a stick at, brother.
I hear you.
Yeah. I babysat all my cousins. Does that count for anything?
Yeah, a little bit.
And I did that too, Chris.
My grandson, who's been living with us for a couple of years, although he has gone off to college, he's driving down from Oregon. He's probably about 4 hours out, and he'll be staying here for the summer. And I believe he'll be heading someplace to college as soon as the summer's over. But he's also a barber, so he'll cut hair and do different things. Hey, Storm Cop, thank you so much. Let me take some notes here, brother.
All right. Thank you, James. That's awfully nice, Royce.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We have a super chat. Let's get the party started. Hey, that's awesome. Very, very awesome. Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because getting the party started, because what we want to do now is I have some shout outs I want to give. I had a little pre-recorded show last night on about 10 minutes long, Tom Petty's Last Dance with Mary Jane. What a great story. Yeah. And I actually got a couple of super chats last night. Ben Schneider, $2 super chat. Deuces are wild. They all add up, and we really appreciate it, Ben. Thank you so much. And right at the end of the show, Storm Cop came in with a $20 super chat. So I want to thank Storm Cop and Ben Schneider. Ben Schneider, correct, yeah. And then Dr. Rick so far tonight has joined my membership, and Storm Cop just gave me a $10 super chat. Thanks so much, brother. So anyway, we're going to get going. I'm going to, first of all, though, I have to go through the shout outs for last week's super chats and stuff, okay? We started out with Storm Cop at $5, Ben Scheidegger at $2, Rock and Robin, RB $2. Storm Cop came back with $20. Rock and Robin came back with a super sticker for $3. And Melissa, Boomer of the Night, bought 7 months of the Royce in the House membership. 7 months. Thank you so much. Michael Boswell, $2 super chat, and Joseph Blue, a $5 super chat right at the end of the show. So thank you guys all so much. It's so much appreciated, and it means a lot to us. We put a lot of work in. Sometimes I don't even know where I find the time, since I'm still having to work elsewhere. But thanks so much. It's just great. So okay, we're gonna go ahead. And keep in mind, it was hard for me before the show started to keep up with the chat. I actually couldn't. So I won't be able to keep up with it near as much once we start talking. But whenever my co-hosts are talking, I'll have an opportunity to start bringing up some chat messages. But let's all participate. Let us know how you feel. Now, I personally was a big fan of Sly and the Family Stone. They were putting out music in the late 60s, when I was in high school. And I remember all my friends, everybody liked Sly and the Family Stone. And I got to see them, Betty and I did, right after we got married. It was probably 70, 73, no more than 74, right in that range. We actually got to see them twice in concert at the Hollywood Palladium in Hollywood, California. We lived in Long Beach at the time. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get the show started. But the fun thing about that show was Sly would come out and do these encores at the end of the show that would last like 20 minutes. He'd come out all by himself without the rest of the band. Of course, he was a hell of a musician: guitar, drums, harmonica, vocals, wrote all the songs. There's not much he didn't play. Piano, he played piano. He'd come out all by himself. He'd play a little piano. He'd grab a guitar. He'd dance around, and he'd throw two peace signs up and say, "Want to take you higher." And it was like pandemonium. He'd do that 4 or 5 times during the encore, and everybody just lost their minds. They were all just screaming with joy over that. So anyway, let's get into it now. Sylvester Stewart, better known by his stage name, and this is what we're going to call him by for sure, Sly Stone, passed June 9th. June 9th, folks, was only on this past Monday, okay? Passed June 9th at the age of 82 in Los Angeles after a prolonged battle with COPD. Sly Stone was an American musician, songwriter, and record producer. I don't know how many people knew that. He was the front man, of course, for Sly and the Family Stone, played a critical role in the development of psychedelic soul. Michael, we were just talking about psychedelic rock. And there's something about all of this psychedelic music, whether it's soul or rock, well, I was a soul lover anyway, that just really appeals to me, and it always has. Okay. Yeah, psychedelic soul, excuse me, guys, and funk, with his pioneering fusion of soul, rock, psychedelia, and gospel, actually, in the 60s and 70s. AllMusic, an online music database, among other things, stated that James Brown may have invented funk, but Sly Stone actually perfected funk, okay, and credited him with creating a series of euphoric yet politically charged records that proved a massive influence on artists of all music and cultural backgrounds. Crawdaddy, an American music magazine, has credited him as the founder of the progressive soul movement. He was born in Denton, Texas, raised in the Bay Area, city of Vallejo in Northern California. Michael, how far are you from Vallejo? Probably a couple hours, huh?
Yeah, about an hour and a half.
About an hour and a half. Okay.
Way I drive.
Okay. Well, it'd be 45 minutes if my wife was driving.
Yeah.
And of course, I'd be, hanging on to my seat. But anyway, Stone mastered several instruments at an early age, performed gospel music as a child with his siblings and future bandmates, Freddie and Rose. Sly Stone was identified as a musical prodigy, you guys. But same with Stevie Winwood, right? By the time he was 7, he had already become proficient on the keyboards at 7 years old, folks. And by the age of 11, he had mastered the guitar, bass, and drums, and somewhere in there, the harmonica too. While still in high school, Sly had settled primarily on the guitar and joined a number of high school bands. One of these was the Viscanes, a doo-wop group in which Sly and his friend Frank Arellano, I don't know if the L's are silent like Spanish or Arellano, but I'm not sure because he was Filipino. They were the only non-white members of Viscanes. The fact that the group was integrated made the Viscanes hip in the eyes of their audience and would later inspire Sly's idea for the multicultural family Stone. The Viscanes released a few local singles, including Yellow Moon and Stop What You're Doing. During the same period, Sly also recorded a few solo singles under the name Danny Stewart with his brother Fred, and formed several short-lived groups after high school and studied music at the Viejo campus of Solano Community College. Okay, so let me bring the panel in here now before I go any further with any of that. Okay, so Michael, we've talked before, and I know you're a fan of Sly and the Family Stone. We've talked about the concerts I've gone to, and I know you'd wished you were there. So how did you wind up getting into them and becoming a fan?
Just the radio. That's the only thing. His big hits. Right. I bought those first couple albums that had the big hits, and then I lost interest in his career. Didn't really follow him. I've never seen him before, but here's what I liked about him, Royce. They would be in my top 50 bands, probably, which is saying a lot. That's right. That's not cutting the man down or the band or anything.
No, I totally get it.
And they would almost have to be there. That way, I could name a band 51 through 100, and there'd be a lot of famous, great, kick-ass bands on that list, right?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
when I say they'd be in my top 50, and I'm not even saying skirting the outer edges, I'm just playing it safe so that I'm being honest here.
Absolutely. Well, they'd be in my top 50 too, and I've never really even considered ranking them. I may do that in the future sometime. So I'm not really sure where they would be. Would they be 46, 58?
They may even be, I don't know. They might even be 31. I just haven't given it that much thought. That was just my real honest opinion at that point. But here's the thing that makes them special and why they would be in the top 50. And it was their multiracial approach in their band. When I saw them for the first, was it on Bandstand? It was one of those silly shows we all used to watch and then go to school and pretend we were too cool to watch Bandstand, right? So it was on one of those shows that it may have been Merv Griffin for all I know. I think they did show up on the, and you can't get any more square show than Merv Griffin.
Oh yeah, he was something. Yeah.
But those last years, he always tried to make himself more relevant than he ever could dream of actually being. But they'd be on one. They were on one of those shows, and I saw them, and I saw black and white and Hispanics all together making music, and it grooved me because it was like, because that's what we are. This idea of race, as soon as it goes away, will be real good. It's beyond us, I think, to be perfectly honest. But we are all human beings, equal in talent, drive, dreams, hopes, and aspirations. And I've always felt that from the time. I remember coming to an early idea of what I wanted in life at 9. A lot of people will say early teens. For me, it was 9 years old, and I never understood the idea of differences between people. When we get together, no matter the race, we mate and we produce. Nature itself tells us we are equal, right? If there was an inequality there, offspring would not be produced. We are all one. And Sly and the Family Stone represented that for me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No, I love
In a
that.
nutshell.
I love
Right.
the way you explain that. I've heard from a couple of people now that there's trolls in here. So
Of course they are.
I'll keep an eye out for them because I will knock them out of here quick. Blue Ranch, give me Michael Nolan, 45,000 subs. Never hits more than 30 live viewers. Suspicious. Okay, you're done. You're done. You just got banned, brother. I hope you're happy for that intelligent comment you made. Mike Douglas was super square, man, but he did book great music. He did, Kilvin. Absolutely. The trolls are busy tonight. Great.
We all know who it is. And you're not going to be named, you little wiener. You're scum as far as I'm concerned. You have always been scum. You continue to be scum. So go scum yourself off into oblivion. Wake up tomorrow to your 5 foot by 7 foot poster of me walking on the beach. Because we know that's what you wake up on. And you just can't help yourself. It's like, what shall I do to ruin his day today, Igor?
Oh.
You scum. You scum. Notice I waited a moment. I breathed before I talked. And you can't get past the tribe, baby.
Yeah, I was busy talking and didn't notice at first until people started saying something.
Yeah, dweeb.
Blue Ranch, give me was banned and their comments were removed.
And hey, Michael, somebody made a comment earlier in the chat that but when we were talking about Father's Day, is saying that, you know, you're the father to all the tribal members too, so you got a lot of reason to be thankful for.
Yeah, boy, I tell you,
it's my plight in life. Oh boy.
Right. I got a little bit to add from,
no, absolutely, Chris, go for it. In fact, I'll make you big since you're holding up props and stuff.
You know, the new edition, circa 1977.
Oh,
yeah,
that's the new edition, 77.
Yeah, see,
wow.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it was only $3.95 when it was bought.
Wow.
Yeah, I like that. I'll give you $4 for it.
All right. So this is some of the early stuff that kind of complements what you had just mentioned, Royce. It says, after leaving school, Sly took on a variety of jobs in the music industry, became a successful record producer, working with Bobby Freeman, the Mojo Men, and Bo Brummels.
Bo Brummels, yeah.
And he also made a name for himself as a DJ. Then in 1966, he formed his own group, the Stoners, though he disbanded it within a year. It was in this way that he discovered Cynthia Robinson, a girl trumpet player who has been with Sly ever since, at least until the printing of this book.
Okay.
Then he put up a new band, the Family Stone, which had the lineup, which was, the original band was Sly Stone, Freddie Stone, Cynthia Robinson, Larry Graham, Greg Errico, Rosie Stone, and Jerry Martini. So, and then the band was thus found as an interracial and intersexual outfit. They played everything from James Brown and soul riffs through acid rock guitar and electronics, adding jazzy horn section and wild vocal harmonies. They won a local following as a live act as they moved away from the black dance halls to the predominantly white psychedelic ballrooms. And then I'll go on after that. So that's good for now. Okay,
I just found another troll, folks. I found another troll. Gianni Baby Brandon They. I don't even want to read it out loud. It's just terrible.
Make me small again, Rick.
Okay, working on it. I'm getting rid of trolls. Give me a break.
Well, I hear you.
At least I have an excuse this time. Yeah. Okay, so I got rid of another troll, Michael, that had something to say about you. And here we come with Melissa, Boomer of the Night. How are you, Melissa?
Hey, Melissa. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing fine. I just wanted to apologize. My computer's confused between my two profiles. I wanted to super chat you tonight about this great. And hi, everybody in chat, and thanks for having me. But Sly is one of my all-time favorites, and it's not a surprise that he passed, but you know,
right.
he's been passing away for years. But I did do a deep dive. And that I made that 5 years ago, but there's nothing new about it,
Yeah.
He's been in the same situation.
Well, no, same situation. Yeah, he went through some hard times. I'm not gonna dwell on the negative tonight.
No, and you don't have to. And
no. And I wasn't referencing you when I said that whatsoever. But I just want to, it's kind of a memorial and
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you're right. I mean, we both know him and Brian Wilson definitely had issues,
Yeah.
And
something that's positive that I can say that I learned when I studied, because I was too young to go see him when it was Sly and the Family Stone, is that I had no idea when I was studying and doing the research for this, is that I always thought they were a 70s funk band.
And did you? No,
yeah,
no. They go back into the late '60s. They released some albums before Led Zeppelin did.
Right. Yeah. Not only that, and you can see this. Hopefully, people will go check it out. But,
right.
I do the chronology. I do the time, and the only album they released in the '70s, he makes one with his sister, and other than that, there are no other band members involved. But he invented the drum machine.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, all I the main thing I said about him, you were probably in the chat when I did it, was I saw him twice in concert, and I got to be honest, I've seen a lot of people. I've seen the Stones twice. I've seen Chicago. I can't even, so many bands, over the years, but I don't remember when I had so much fun as watching Sly and the Family Stone. He was so entertaining on his encores and stuff like that. It was just something else completely. But anyway, a fun time. And okay, Novice Nick, you were a late joiner. What have you got to say for yourself, young man?
I don't have a whole lot.
Say what?
We lost a
Say
couple
what?
more artists. Yeah,
I
believe
know,
it or not.
I know.
It just nobody gets out. So
no, nobody gets out alive. That's true. You know what?
Excuse me a sec. Okay, had the cough button. So yeah, it's what I didn't see this live stream until today, because we had made an announcement last week, so I looked at that. But that's okay. Just some groundbreaking artists that just gone. It's it's a shame.
It's sad.
Happens.
I mean, we've been expecting the pace to quicken, because so many of the people we love come out of the late '60s, and it's going to be tough. And it's like I said, Michael had a show and we were talking about his Rock Dead, and I think if you probably remember this, Michael, I said something to the effect of, it's going to take all of our icons to finally pass, which I'm not looking forward to, before there's going to be kind of a rebirth of rock, I think. But now, everything that comes up is compared to what came before them, because the guys are still around making it,
I think it's time we start looking to curate the art and to look at it from this point on as something that can be discussed, what was accomplished and everything, and let's do that. Even I've got streamers out there saying we should start our own tribal rock hall of fame. I mean, they're begging me to just start something like that. And to hell with these people that are misrepresenting what rock and roll is. Just tear it down, start all over again, type of thing. So I'm all for a more organic approach every single time.
Absolutely. What I'm finding is a lot of the bands that, to me, I didn't pay a lot of attention to, because I'm still with the bands that I've known for so long and love. the bands we're talking about tonight. You know, the bands we talk about every night in classic rock. And I'm noticing now a lot of those bands that I was considering newer bands, and you mentioned Matchbox 20 earlier, but there's a lot of them. Counting Crows. I like Counting Crows, but I'm starting to notice they're not new bands anymore. They're starting to become classic rock. You know.
Well, are we headed for a morph in not only the genre of music, but you know, with
Right.
the people coming of age? I mean, let's face
Well,
it, we can roll back to pounding on stones, you know, for music, and morphed into, you know, classical. Classical's still here. It's not the
right.
popular music for everybody, but it's still here. And then, you know, we progressed forward, and it was, you know, it's just a continuous march forward.
Exactly.
We don't see it because our world is like this as far as, you know, the new creations and types of music, but eventually it's going to open up, and these younger folks that are coming along are going to appreciate something same but only different. You know, it's
That's
going to
right.
slowly
No, that,
progress.
that that's right. That's right. You know, it's going to be hard. I mean, we came through the area where rock went through so many things, including one of our favorites, psychedelic era, right?
But it,
And
it's not going to be that hard. We won't be here.
it was all and
Right?
it was all based on the blues. Then it got psychedelic, and it got heavy, and it's like, what are they possibly going to come up with that's going to be like breaking new ground? I mean, who knows? I mean, I guess they used to say that before we had favorites.
But I'm going
Right.
to tell you something. There were okay. You guys were asking for newer stuff that's rock, or at least bands. I mean,
Yeah.
musical instruments that are authentic musical instruments. And I've come across so many now. And I'm going to start, now that I'm back into content creation, I'm going to start introducing some of those groups to you in a unique way. I was talking to my husband about it, and I said, I think what I'm going to start doing is saying, have you guys heard of Sabrina Carpenter? So I'll do a little bit of a short and say, here's somebody today that sounds like a Carole King of yesterday. So 50 years ago, we had this great person, and here's somebody now that's reminiscent of her, right? And I'll do it with all groups. I'll do it with metal groups. I'll do it with, and it might, of course, they're not going to be the Carole King, you know, somebody who's reminiscent of them, that kind of thing.
Reminiscent, but it almost, okay, we're starting to get an echo now. It almost sounds like tribute bands, though. You know.
Well, no, no. I mean, to you guys, maybe, I suppose, because it's always going to be, you know, derivative.
No, I know. You can say that about all the bands, of course. Yeah.
But I've heard some stuff lately. Well, they have one song. I put it up. It was called Space to Bakersfield. So I, you know.
That's not a stretch.
Yeah. So
walking the streets of Bakersfield.
Right. It's got a very Pink Floyd sound to it, and I can fall asleep to that every night. I loved that. Sugar
do
Ross
you?
is on tour right now. Does anybody like Sugar Ross? Also, Elvis Costello was on tour, and it's his last one.
Oh, well, he's been around since the early 80s, hasn't he?
Of all the bands I've seen.
Earlier than that.
Yeah. So he's classic rock.
I'd like to say hello and pleased to meet you to the young lady up on screen, because I don't believe we've met.
Oh, you haven't?
For being late. Yes.
We've actually met. It was just about a year ago, probably. I haven't been around for a good while.
I'm a goldfish sometimes.
Let me see if I can put her on your lap. Let's see. No, go ahead.
Wait, let me shut the door.
Sorry, folks. Bad humor.
It's okay. That's okay.
There we go. Let's throw a little
divining,
that out there.
Divining Dragon. Good point. Would everybody please hit that thumbs up button?
Yes.
You have no idea what that means to the show.
Right.
Once you hit 50, you get a bump from the algorithm when it comes to distributing your show to a wider audience, and sometimes that helps to get to that next milestone. And it's funny because some of these shows, like I did a show about 8 months ago, and that show had to do with a song that Bob Dylan called the greatest song ever written. And it was actually a Wichita Lineman by Glenn Campbell. I did that show, and it did pretty damn good. I wound up with a couple of hundred views within a few days, and then it stopped, and it started just ticking along. And you know what? In the last month or two, I've been getting more views on that old show than anything new I've been putting up. And I think I'm up around 6,000 views right now on that show.
Nice.
And it just keeps going. Go ahead. I'm getting off target here. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I wasn't saying.
Oh, I thought you were telling me
was
there's
agreeing
another
with
troll
you.
I was missing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just funny because once you get a few shows that are, or a bunch of shows that are a year or two, even 3 years old, all of a sudden something happens out there, like my show on Laurel Canyon, and all our famous stars that were up there in Laurel Canyon back in the day, late 60s, early 70s. And all of a sudden, it did really good. I mean, 6, 7, 8,000 subscribers, not subscribers, but I mean views right off the bat. It was one of my more popular shows. But somebody started a series on Laurel Canyon. They were putting a new show on every week. And of course, everybody was, went to the show, they'd see my show as an option. And man, my subscribers, they just take off. You don't even know where it comes from sometime. But one little thing that really helps is those thumbs up. They really kind of get you in the range where that can happen to you later,
Yeah.
Yep.
I always, I never get thumbs up, but I think I upset people. I'm not trying to talk. When I call it Dark Side of the Tune, it's not meant to be negative. It's meant to be more about mental health awareness. And so many of classic rockers and just rock period, people have struggles with certain things, either mental health or substance abuse, or they had their license stolen, their money stolen.
Oh yeah.
So I do
almost all of them have had money stolen. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I just like to educate people on that. I like to talk about that. And sometimes people don't want to listen to it. They're like, I just want to hear the music.
I think the early bands in particular all went to the same economic school that the old boxers went to.
Right.
Yeah.
And then nowadays the kids in hip hop are getting stuck in that, and it's called a 360 deal. It's awful. And even their merchandise and their perfumes that the girls put out and the tennis shoes that the guys put out, it's awful.
You wonder why any kind of financial planning, any kind, is not taught this much in elementary school. Your lunch money, junior high, high school minimum. I mean, how to balance a checkbook that they don't know what a checkbook is. There's money in there. It says so I'm good. I trust the bank. What?
Yeah. What?
Yeah. It's all they have no concept. And why isn't our tax dollars that we pay for these schools teaching them that?
They don't even
They got
teach
all
them
this
how to
other
do
crud.
papers any longer. They don't know how to write cursive. They don't know how to
Yeah, they can't write.
They can't even read cursive.
I've so far banned 3 people from the channel and had their comments erased.
One of my
The same
biggest
guy
pet
keeps popping up
peeves
too. Yeah.
in schools is every school I know of just spent $1 gazillion taking out analog clocks to put in digital clocks. I'm sorry. Aren't we in school to learn? How hard is it to learn how to read a clock? But no, we rather spend millions of dollars across the country on a clock.
Right.
Instead of education.
Right.
The 10 minutes it would take to teach the child how to read the clock.
Right.
I have a friend that's a big music editor all over the country, and he always puts in the preposition the right way instead of a dangling preposition. And I always tell him, I know it's not a fake account or a cloned account. I know it's really you because of the way. To whom am I speaking, or to where?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get it.
Well, I'm busy doing a fast scroll. I heard there might be another troll in here.
It's probably, I'm going to let you know right off the bat. It's probably
no. There he is, and you're right.
They just change accounts really quickly.
Well, I just have I'm just trying to see what's different there. Maybe his icon, his picture is.
Yeah, it looks like it's
yeah, it looks like a different picture. So
that same person was
anyway,
in
boy,
earlier,
I'd like to get my hands on him. Let me tell you that.
I really hope I'm not dragging that person around. But they were in James earlier today, and James and Judah got rid of him. So I'm going to be interviewing James sometime soon.
Sir James?
Yes.
Yeah, he's having Michael and I on his show. He's been wanting us to do this for months.
He invited me.
What?
Well.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He used to come on my show a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got to make a note here.
Okay, so as far as
Go
Brian
ahead.
Wilson, though, I found all his relationship with Mike Love. I found that so fascinating because it seemed to have. In my opinion, it was like a carryover from his father, and it seemed like Mike Love kept that whole. We just should be Beach Boys formula, Beach Boys, instead of we should carry on with things like Pet Sound and Good Vibrations, Beach Boys.
Right.
What do you guys think?
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
don't get stuck in the same old. You like open your mind a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's see. I'm going back. I'm trying to catch a couple of things here.
We saw Mike Love and Bruce Johnson or John Stone. Is it Johnson or John Stone? The guy they added in place of so many people in what they call the Beach Boys. It's not really the Beach Boys, but there's no Carl, there's no Dennis, there's no Brian. And it's just Bruce, Mike Love, and John Stamos. And we saw that band in September of 2018 and we left. They couldn't even harmonize. It was terrible.
Oh my
Well, you mentioned John
that's happened.
Stamos. It's girlfriend's downstairs watching TV. She's watching. It's a tribute to the Beach Boys and John Stamos. I think he's the host or something. Yeah,
Jeez.
you just mentioned that. It was recorded obviously before Brian died, but yeah.
Right.
Guess
Love
you
and
gotta make a
Mercy
buck
was great
somehow.
movie. I thought Love and Mercy was a really good movie. And I know it was fictionalized quite a bit, but he endorsed it apparently. Brian did.
Hey, I'd like everybody to Michael Boswell to Ben Schneider. Okay. We have somebody backstage named Sergeant Pepper. Now, Dawson, is that you?
Do you have a porn bomb thing? Do you have like
a porn bomb? I've never heard of a porn bomb.
Yeah, it blocks the screen
like
from
yeah.
airing.
Okay. I got a little behind on a couple of things. I want to thank
I don't think Dr.
Ben
Pepper's here.
Scheidegger. I want to thank Ben Scheidegger for going ahead and throwing up a super chat here. He says, "Wrench me up, Royce. We'll keep this place troll free."
There you go.
Hadn't heard of any slide. Okay. All right. Let me see if I can do that, Ben. And thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Okay. So, okay.
Does anybody know this guy at all before you bring him in?
Not before.
Yeah, you don't want to get taken down.
You
No, I
can't
was
see
trying
him.
to figure out if it was Dawson.
If you can't see him, he doesn't come up.
No. Okay. Here we go.
Oh, it is Dawson.
Dawson.
Woo!
Dawson, we were looking for a gun.
I think
Hey,
his line gets
I
that
want
inch longer every
to
time he comes up.
I want to ask Ben Scheidegger to go ahead and just put up any comment. While you're in this blue screen, I can't wrench you. Normally, I can just from a normal comment. So just throw up a comment, and we'll get this done.
Yeah.
You know what? My favorite Sly song of all time was "Hot Fun in the Summertime."
Hot Fun in the Summertime.
Yeah,
That was a
great
great song.
And
Yeah.
she felt
Hey,
that.
Royce,
Yes.
Doc Insomnia also said wrench him up. He's a wrench over at my channel.
Oh yeah. No, gladly. Okay, let's
You shouldn't
see.
call people a wench.
Delete comment. Put you in timeout.
No, you should see what
Okay,
she looked like.
you know what, Ben? I don't think I can wrench you up while I'm doing the show right now, unfortunately. Let's see.
Or you guys do that, Royce.
No,
I can read another passage out of the book or so if you like.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so we want to.
continuing with Sly and the Family Stone. So it was The band's first album, A Whole New Thing, wasn't quite all the title suggested, but it did contain one gem of an exuberant single, Dance to the Music, which reached number 7 in the UK, number 8 in the US in 1968. It was an encouraging start, and both Dance to the Music and its sequel, Milady, were highly influential, recharging a flagging soul scene with fluent jazz phrasing, complex arrangements, a sense of humor, and individual identity. Dance to the Music also served as the title of the band's third album, although basically a dance record. Sly's innate lightness of touch and the band's sheer energy overcame any possible monotony. In 1969, they improved still further with Everyday People, which is my favorite song by them.
Got it.
Yeah, that's a great song too.
Which went gold as a single, as did the album it was taken from, Stand. The title track of which was the Black Power anthem. I don't know about that, but this album was also included I Want to Take You Higher.
Yeah.
The song which featured as the high point of their dynamic act at Woodstock Festival. And believe me, there's one on YouTube. It was taken down, the first one I found, but there's a video on YouTube of their entire show at Woodstock. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
My dive intros with that
Yeah.
in the Woodstock and him introing the band, and I allowed him to intro the band. Usually I do that. So
Right.
I said, let's let Sly do it.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, it's shout out time. I got to give a shout out to my good friend Paul. Paul actually lives in Colombia, and he pays us in Colombia pesos. So COP 29,000 and 900 pesos, and if I'm not mistaken, it's $9.66, I think, if memory serves me correctly. Let's see. 401.
Oh.
Okay, I'll have it on a different page. But anyway, okay, guys, let me get back to a little bit of the narrative I prepared for this. Okay,
Yeah.
so okay, so Sly became his nickname, okay, because one of his classmates misspelled his name. As instead of Sylvester, he spelled it Slyvester. And afterward, the name Sly just followed him.
There you go.
Isn't that amazing? So in the mid-'60s, Stone worked as a disc jockey for a San Francisco, California soul radio station, KSOL, where he included white performers such as the Beatles and the Rolling Stones on his playlist. And Michael and I have talked about that a lot. Back during that era, you could listen to a Beatles song, a Rolling Stone song, a Led Zeppelin song, and the next one might be Marvin Gaye or, the Temptations or, some other soul. I mean, they were all together. They weren't segregated back then into specific genres. They all fit together. Okay. During the same period, he worked as a staff record producer. I mean, you talk about talent. He also a record producer for Autumn Records, producing for predominantly white San Francisco area bands. Now, this is kind of cool, such as the Beau Brummels, the Mojo Men, Bobby Freeman, and Grace Slick's of Jefferson Airplane and Starships fame. Grace Slick's first band, The Great Society. Sly was actually, producing music for all those people.
And he booked acts at Cal Poly, didn't he?
Yeah, that's talent. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay, so in 66, Sly Stone and his brother Freddie joined their bands together to form Sly and the Family Stone, a racially integrated mixed gender act. The group recorded many hits. The band's catalog, every single composition was penned by Sly Stone, includes their 3 career-defining RIAA Gold Billboard #1 pop / #1 R&B smashes. Everyday People, Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again, and Family Affair. And their signature top 40 hits that began with Dance to the Music went on to include Stand, Hot Fun in the Summertime, Running Away, If You Want Me, Time for Living, and more. Okay, including I Want to Take You Higher, and there's a riot going on. Those were a little later, but anyway. So
Hot
we'll go.
fun in the
Hot
summertime.
fun.
Is the best freaking track they ever did. And
That
what
is
a great
a
summertime song.
great song. Yes, it is.
God, that's
Okay.
a sweltering wonder of a song for a summer's day, man. You know,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you can see my graphics card. My motherboard's getting ready to burn out. So every time this computer gets hot, but I keep saying I'm moving over to my nice big computer, and I am. He just couldn't come out this week because we bought a new refrigerator finally. So you guys, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, you bet. You
night,
bet.
Melissa.
All right. God
Good
bless.
having you on.
There really is a lot of information left to dissect on that dive.
Right.
So I hope people will check it out. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Night.
Hi, Melissa.
Hey, Chris, where are you?
I'm here. I just had to do some.
Oh, okay. No
had to
worries.
plug
No
my
worries. No
computer
worries.
in.
Okay, so once again, thank you, Paul. Paul P401 from Columbia. Paul and I go back a long ways. Just the same period where I met Caitlin and Bill Kay and Dan McNew and Jeff Davidson, who was here earlier. So he may be still watching, but not in the chat. Divining Dragon, you rock. Right on. You rock too, brother. If anybody rocks, Divining does. Al Val, Sly and the Family Stone's greatest hits, or one great album. Speak of the devil, I have Sly and the Family Stone's greatest hits.
Hey.
And you are right. This is one. Look at that. This is one great album, and I'm proud to say that I only paid, if I can get it up there, screw it, $18.99. $18.99 for Sly and the Family Stone's greatest hits, and all the classics are here. I want to take you higher. Everybody is a star. Dance to the music. Everyday people. Stand. Life. Fun. You can make it if you try. Hot fun in the summertime, my lady. Sing a simple song. Thank you for letting me be myself. It's funny how he spells it. Not myself, but myself. Pretty funny stuff. But what a character. This guy is straight up an entertainer, in the nth degree. I mean, the guy is just amazing. Okay, so Dawson, let's talk a little Sly and the Family Stone there, brother.
All right, let's go. Yeah, I first heard of them. Actually, I think the first time was probably Scooby-Doo movie. It was at the end of Scooby-Doo, maybe 1, and they're having a party, and they're at the dance floor with all the monsters, and then Scooby has this big afro on, and he's dancing around, and they're playing the song, and I'm like, this is cool. This is like the disco. Kind of like disco dancing.
I mean, that's
stuff,
really funny.
Like,
right?
I like Big Butts and I Cannot Lie, and Casey and the Sunshine Band and Bee Gees. Like, this is funky dance, groovy, bass filled, super duper funkified music.
Punkified, yeah. That's great. That's great. Appreciate that. So you've just kind of you haven't listened to a lot of Sly, Dawson?
I like probably some of the greatest hits there, and I could kind of piece things together. So the other part would have been Woodstock. So I bought Woodstock on my iTunes, and then I watched it. So at first the crowd was like, "Okay, this is kind of cool," and they're kind of listening to it. About halfway, they kind of get out of rhythm, and it gets kind of weird, and they're like, "What the heck is going on here?" But then it starts to get dark out, and the lights go down, and then they start playing, and it gets a bit louder, and it gets a bit and everybody, all freaking 500,000 people are standing up, and they're like, yeah, and they totally won the crowd over. It was one of the greatest times a band has ever won a crowd over from like sitting down to standing up. Yeah.
Well, I'll just say to Eric Schultz real quick that I look things up on Wikipedia. There's a lot of good information in there. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you have to skip over and cut through and hack out, just to come up with something that's kind of a coherent conversation. But other than that,
something Dawson was saying there, you're talking about just Woodstock itself, like Sly and the Family Stone, they got their massive breakthrough there. Santana did the same thing. Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Just you just brought that show up. I'm just thinking of all the bands that made it huge just because of that single show.
Yeah, I have the double album set from that, and I've seen the video multiple times, and I've dreamed that I was there multiple times, only to wake up and find out I wasn't. But anyway, yeah, no, that's great. I mean, there's Jimi Hendrix was actually the headliner. He was getting paid a whole $18,000, but the show went so late on, I think the third night was it, that he wound up opening the following morning to maybe 200,000 people instead of way less than that, maybe less than 100,000 people, because people were all going back to it was Monday morning. People were all going back to their jobs and
basically
school and whatever else. Yeah, the stragglers, right. But no, that's an interesting. What's funny? You mentioned Santana, didn't you?
Yeah.
And Santana didn't have a single album out when they went to
2
Woodstock
weeks before their album even dropped.
Jerry Garcia, who they opened for in the San Francisco Bay Area, oftentimes free concerts at the Golden Gate Park. They opened for Jerry, and that was just an acid fueled venue. Everybody was on acid over there. But anyway, so Jerry Garcia got to Woodstock first, and he was standing up on these stairs, going into the building, and he looked over, and Santana and his guys were getting off a plane. He goes, "Hey, Carlos, come here." So Carlos goes over, and Jerry goes, "You guys want some acid?" And Santana goes, "No, Jerry, we don't know when we're going on." And Jerry goes, "Oh, you don't have to worry about it. You're going on after us, and we're not going on for another 7 or 8 hours." And Santana goes, "Oh, okay, we'll take some." So as soon as they got back to where they were staying, they were in a little room, and the door swung open, and they were just completely frying out of their minds. The door swung open, and somebody says, "Santana, you're up." And when you look at that performance, I've watched that performance many, many times. The song "Soul Sacrifice," the drum work, the guitar work. I mean, it's magnificent. It's like a masterpiece. And these guys were all messed up on LSD. Anyway, enough of all that. Let's keep on moving, keep on grooving. Okay, what am I seeing up there?
You just got a super chat from Melissa. She just came in as a different name.
Okay, so she must be down below me then.
Yeah.
Stephanie Warning. Okay. There she is. There's a Michael Boswell and maybe a Melissa after that. Okay, Chris, you want to talk for a minute while I take a couple of notes?
Sure, I'll just pick up where I left off with the slide.
Perfect.
Yeah. Everyone's okay. Dance news. Yeah. Said after the Woodstock performance, which sealed their status as one of the most fashionable groups in the rock circuit. However, this was followed only by anticlimax, as the band blew out over several gigs, and there were rumors of drug problems. Only one single was put out, "Thank You." Felt tonight me be myself again. Like you said, Royce. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that again. Which was postscript to the first phase of the Family Stone's collective existence, with no other new product forthcoming. Epic released the greatest hits, which immediately went gold.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. And then 1971, Sly put out "There's a Riot Going On," the album that was a complete departure from the band's previous material and established him as a writer and set further new directions for soul music. It was certainly low-key, emphasizing Sly's disillusionment with the newly cast role of a superstar. English rock critic Andrew Weiner called it an elegantly constructed portrait of personal and social disintegration. Meanwhile, the Family Stone, which was by now gigging rather infrequently, endured lineup changes. Lots of lineup changes. And it was from 1973 was when their next album was Fresh, an unconvincing album as Sly backed off the despair from "There's a Riot Going On," but was unable to replace it with anything very positive. His albums subsequently have been of little interest. Sly has been always Aber, Sly has always been an unpredictable and frequently baffling character, advancing in oblique sideways steps. In 1974, this is a pretty funny story here. He got married on stage before a gig at Madison Square Garden to Kathy Silva, who had borne him a child some months previously. Father, mother, and baby are pictured on the front cover of Small Talk from 1974. So that's him and his family on the cover of that album.
Well, let's all just take a second here and say good night to Storm Cop 55.
Oh,
Good night, James.
Yeah, I got to
he-
bail
he-
out too. I got some stuff that's happening back here. I
Okay.
apologize.
No,
Thanks for
no,
having
no.
me. Love
It's
you
all
all.
it's all good. Love you too, brother. Thanks
Take
for
care,
being
Nick.
here.
Have a
Good
good
night,
evening.
Nick.
See ya.
We'll see you later.
Melissa, I was looking for you in the chat, and I finally, when I made you big up on the screen, I could tell who Zed Saded was. I couldn't tell until I put you up on the screen for some reason. And I want to thank you so much. I appreciate it, Melissa. And also, and I'll be doing the shout outs next week as well. But Rockin' Robin Bird made a super chat. Michael Boswell made a super chat. And those are the three I haven't mentioned since Paul 401. So thanks a lot, guys. So anyway, I don't even know where we're at with the chat right now, but I'm gonna start doing some scrolling. But we have a lot of ground to cover, folks. So
Yeah. Well, one last thing.
yeah. Go ahead. You go ahead.
It says an album notes. Sly's first two albums, A Whole New Thing and Life, were reissued by Epic in a double album called High Energy in 1975. So I didn't know that either. But
Well, yeah, no, I
and
didn't
once you
either.
get to the Beach Boys, I can read some more out of this book, but I won't undercut you first.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, let me try to get through. I had a few more what I thought at least were significant comments that I wanted to get through. Before we moved on to the Beach Boys, and everybody's doing good here. I appreciate it. It's coming together.
Right.
So anyway, we had by the mid 70s.
There you go.
Okay. By the mid 70s, Stone's drug use and erratic behavior effectively ended the group, leaving him to record several unsuccessful solo albums. He toured or collaborated with artists such as Parliament Funkadelic, I remember them, Bobby Womack, yeah, and Jesse Johnson. In 1993, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of the group. He took part in a Sly and the Family Stone tribute 2006 Grammy Awards, his first live performance, get this, since 1987. Okay, so this was in 1993. He was, okay, in 2006 to 1987, almost 20 years, 19 years before he'd performed. That's kind of sad. Okay. So let me read something here that I think is interesting. This is kind of a closer on the Sly show. Sly and the Family Stone songs not only inspired an era of youthful rebellion and independence, but also had a potent effect on the course of modern music in general. A dazzling fusion of psychedelic rock, soul, gospel, jazz, and Latin flavors as well. Sly's music brought the next step, funk, to a disparate populace of hip artists. From Miles Davis and Herbie Hancock to the halls of Motown and George Clinton's P-Funk, Michael Jackson, Curtis Mayfield, down the line to Bob Marley, the Isley Brothers, fans of both of them, myself, Prince, 4 or 5 Prince albums, Public Enemy, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Arrested Development, and the Black Eyed Peas, the Roots, the Outcast, and on and on. Now, I love this last sentence. Sly's DNA is traceable to every cell of the music stratosphere. He really, a lot of people just don't realize the impact that Sly had,
Yes. And in so many genres, as you just pointed out, like, it's crazy.
Oh, it truly is crazy. I mean, he touched on so many. So anyhow, folks, Sly was an amazing performer. whether you knew or not that he'd produced, music and did all this other stuff that is technical, when it came to his own performances, he was just amazing. That guy he knew how to entertain a crowd. He really did. And I'm so grateful I got to see him the 2 times that I got to see him. Just think about all the great music we never got to hear because of filthy drugs and booze. What a genuine, oh man. Bronze Snake, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you, man. That is so true. I think about that all the time. All that we've lost because of drugs, it's touched us all in different ways. Family members, friends. Oh my God. Some of my friends, it's like the whole tribe was wiped out at some point,
Well, hey, the flip side of that, and I don't mean to get myself in trouble, although I might, is think of how much music we wouldn't have if it wasn't for drugs and booze.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting point. Yeah, I don't know how psychedelic Hendrix's music would have been without a little LSD. I don't know. You know what? He would have picked up on what was happening around him, and he would have made the same music, and it would have been amazing.
Absolutely.
But what I worry about is the shortened lives of so many of our rock icons, and it is amazing how many of them have lived into their 80s. With all the partying they did. I mean, oh man, I'd have been gone a long time ago.
You got the Toxic Twins 1 and 2. I mean, Keith and Richards, and then Steve and Joe, Tyler and Perry.
Oh, okay, yeah. Toxic Twins also refers to Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx.
No, I'm talking about people that should be mentioned in the same category. Those guys don't count.
Well, Toxic Twins also refers to Vince Neil alone. There's a toxic twin for you.
Does LSD cause brain bleeding?
Right. Okay, well, I tell you what, folks, we're going to jump right into the iconic Beach Boys. The Beach Boys. Not really so much the Beach Boys. We're actually covering, Brian Wilson. So anyway, guys, let's get into this. Brian Wilson, just amazing, man. Singer, songwriter, producer, and leader of the band. I mean, this guy, don't get me wrong, there were periods of time when he wasn't doing anything and other people had to step up, whether it was Carl or David or whoever. But Brian Wilson was the brains behind this whole thing, As a founding member of the Beach Boys, Brian led the iconic pop rock group to glory throughout their career, earning the band 4 number 1 hits, 15 top 10 songs on the Billboard Hot 100, as well as 2 number 1 LPs and 13 top 10 albums on the Billboard 200. One of those top 10 projects was 1966's Pet Sound, an album that saw Wilson embracing experimental production techniques and sophisticated orchestration to create a coming-of-age LP. I think that's pretty cool. Today, Pet Sounds is widely regarded as one of the most influential pop albums ever made, while Wilson ultimately left the group following the death of drummer and Wilson's younger brother, Dennis, who I guess he drowned, and he had been drinking that day, but the autopsy said he drowned. The remaining members briefly reunited in 2012 for a 50th anniversary world tour. Okay. So basically the band, and again, we're talking about Brian Wilson, but it's unavoidable to include the Beach Boys in the conversation. The Beach Boys consisted of 3 brothers. You had Brian Wilson, Dennis Wilson, drummer, vocals, keyboard, writer also, and Carl Wilson, lead guitar, singer, writer. Okay. Carl Wilson died in 1998 of lung cancer. Of course, as I mentioned moments ago, Dennis Wilson died in 83 from drowning. Then you had their across the street neighbor, Al Jardine, played rhythm guitar, and of course their cousin, Mike Love, who was kind of the vocalist, sort of front man. Now, I don't think I've ever seen him with the instrument in his hands. But
Mike Love's a piece of shit.
Okay. I'm just, I hear you, brother. I do. Brian,
You know what,
yeah,
boys? I just did a poll
excuse me.
prior to this current poll I'm running just yesterday. 1,700 votes on this. I said, which of the following Beach Boys album do you prefer? And it said Surfing Safari. They got it right the first time. All else pales. 6% voted for that.
No
The other option was Smile. Albums without Mike Love's input puts a smile on my face. 6. That was my snipe.
Right.
Because he's a dirty dog asshole. I just watched his acceptance to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speech where he dissed the Beatles as if Brian Wilson, because you want to know what the story of the Beach Boys are, Royce? Plain and freaking, notice I said freaking, simple.
I did.
It's the
You saved me hours of trying to find this place on the.
It's the Brian Wilson story. Okay.
Right.
Now, that doesn't take away how great a vocalist they were, but for heaven's sakes, they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And for the most part, the Beach Boys on their records were no more significant than the Monkees were on their records. They were out touring these songs and would come into the studio after the Wrecking Crew did all the backing tracks, right? Doesn't this sound like the Monkees to you? And then they'd come in and layer their voices and significantly much more well-blended voices than the Monkees, even though I love the Monkees. But here's the deal. It is the Brian Wilson story. That band, without Brian Wilson, we would not be talking about them tonight. Okay? Plain and freaking simple. The other one that a lot of people voted for was the Beach Boys' Endless Summer. Hits I love and no BS filler stuff. And of course, the winner, no surprise, Pet Sounds. Even the Beatles knew this was a masterpiece at 68%. And I disagree with that. See, my own tribe will disagree with me. I think Pet Sounds is overrated. I think it's I think Pet Sounds at times is damn right outright boring to listen to. It's no doubt when you listen to the blends and the vocals and what Paul heard in it, you can hear all of that. I guess it's a masterpiece, but it's not my favorite rock album of all time. I haven't even looked for it on vinyl yet. It's just not that big a deal. But when we're talking about Brian Wilson, okay, who has passed away at 82 years old, what was he, 9 days shy of 83? He's 2 days younger than Paul McCartney. And what we lost, and this has got to be placed time and time again on this stream, if this is going to be a proper tribute, is the Beach Boys, on one hand, as the rest of the band, was a band that made hits. The Brian Wilson story, we lost a mega giant this week. This you talk about, and we were very respectable to Sly Stone. Sly Stone wasn't a pimple on the ass of Brian Wilson. Brian Wilson is a major player. This is like losing John Lennon, only instead of him being murdered at a relatively young age, we have him passing away at an ancient, by a lot of people's standards, age of 83. And I look at that and I go, that's only about 13 years away, So I think because I did a video on this and other people did a video. When it first came out, for the most part, it was like a footnote. But it simmered over the week, I noticed. and there was more interest as people, and I stayed away from making more videos on this nonsense because it's like it's simmering. Interest is simmered up because people have finally realized a giant passed their way, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so there's all this built up interest that to me is just fake ass bullshit. Oh yes, Brian was well, where were you last week when the damn guy died?
Right.
And so that's what we're seeing. But this is a passing of like a beetle.
No,
Okay.
Michael, I couldn't agree with you more. And you're right what you said about the comparison with Sly. I lumped them together for just
Me too.
Just to do it. But I was not trying to, in any way, shape, or form, then saying they both stand in the same level.
Oh no, I didn't think you were. As a matter of fact,
they were a fun band. I wanted to do them first because I knew the Beach Boys. Brian Wilson was just he's really like a god of music. Really,
you wisely held Brian off to second. If you had started off with Brian, then that would have been inappropriate. And I'm not cutting down Sly Stone. You heard what I said about Sly before. I'm a major fan.
Yeah.
Top 50 bands, right? That would be in my top 50 bands.
Right.
I guess the Beach Boys would be in my top 50 bands, begrudgingly, though.
Well,
I love early Beach. I love early Beach Boy. I love early Beach Boy sounds. I love Good Vibrations. I love California Girls. But I don't like Sloop John B. and a host of other songs that band put out. Plain and simple.
They do make a bigger thing out of John Sloop B than I understand, to be honest.
I don't get it. I don't dig it at all. Never did. I never liked that song. I know you're supposed to like it. I know you're supposed to like Pet Sounds. But I would rather.
You're supposed to wear a Pet Sounds T-shirt, Michael.
But Royce, that double LP, which was a replacement for Endless Summer that you sent me. What that about does me. I'm serious for the Beach Boys.
I
that's
totally
the
understand.
one. Roy sent me a vinyl of this, folks. And it's in my collection. And as I said in my tribute video, the day he died, when it was real news, I even brought up Royce giving me that, and now that gift even means that much more to me. I'm a major Brian Wilson fan, less so Beach Boy fan, although I was a Beach Boy fan way before I was ever a Beatles fan. I owned, I owned that Surfin' Safari album before I got a Beatles album, right? And I would, as far as the standalone albums, I'll take Surfin' Safari. I love that freaking thing. Yeah.
No, I do too. I've got a copy of it right here. It's a great album.
Look at that cover. That's
oh God.
This is back, and this was kind of shocking. This was like we got a lot of viewers who are in their 50s, and they can tell you all about the skateboard era and how people look cool. Tony Hawk's and these guys were like that during the time. There was surfer magazines galore on the newsstand, and they were in surfer magazines, and they didn't even freaking surf. Well, one of them did.
One of them, the drummer,
right.
Well, Michael, it's so true. It's so true. I mean, it was all part of an atmosphere back then. We made our skateboards. They didn't have the fancy wheels yet. We took a steel skate, unscrewed the wing nut, pulled it apart, and we nailed half on the front and half on the back.
That's right.
And we'd go down.
I've made dozens of those in my life, Royce.
You might put a board up the front and have a little scooter.
Make a scooter out of it. You did it all, man.
I tell you what, we come flying down that mid-block big sidewalk that went from one street to the next, and try to make that turn on the little 3-foot sidewalk at the end. And man, those steel skates, you hit one little pebble, and that board goes flying, and you go flying. in that rare time when you made that turn, it was like a real treat.
When the skateboard craze came in, I remember several of my friends kind of got onto it. So I went out, and as soon as those urethane wheels came out, I went, I'm going to kill myself on this. I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah, no, I know. Hey, Bill K. Where's Daddy Boggs when you need him? Let's get him out here. Daddy Boggs is the Beach Boys.
He is the major Beach Boys fan. And once again, historically speaking, under the guise of the Brian Wilson story, I am a major fan of the band, right? Yeah. And they have a member that I cannot freaking stand. I don't like him at all. He's not a good human being. He is a pompous ass, and that's Mike Love. And so now with the passing of the Wilson brothers, and we have next door neighbor and the cousin left,
right?
And they're touring two separate bands, against each other. There is no Beach Boys left, people. There's no Beach. They're dead and gone.
They're dead and gone. That's it. Well, they are.
Sorry, Mikey, but a fact's a fact.
Mike Love came to Vina Robles not too long ago, within the last 6 months. Same place I've seen Alice Cooper and Jason Bonham and Alison Krauss and Robert Plant. Nice little small venue. But anyway, he was coming there, and it was Mike Love and nobody else that was in the Beach Boys. I guess there was one person, I guess, that had played with them for some time. But it's like, I'm not going to do that, I miss my chance, I mean, they would have been fun to see at one time.
Well, here's the thing, Royce. When was Live Aid? That was 1985, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. So I was watching their performances on Live Aid this week. And and they were fine. They extended their songs too long. You went to the crowd and everybody's doing this, but you could tell they're kind of like, yeah, anytime now, right? They're starting to age at this point. They've been phenomena for a good quarter of a century up to that point. Now, I don't think how old they are today. But
right.
Take a look at the footage of Live Aid and the Beach Boys and then watch on that stage people, all the musicians that are playing on that stage that you can't freaking identify. This was 1985, and they were already not the freaking Beach Boys. And you want to know who was on that stage? Brian Wilson. All right. His other brother that hadn't died, Mike Love, and, of course, Bruce Johnson with Al. Yeah, Al must have been there. Don't recall seeing him. I saw a lot of Bruce. Right. And then the rest of the band was filler people.
Okay.
That's not the Beach Boys. You want to know the Beach Boys? Look at early YouTube Beach Boys when Brian's up there and they're playing as a 5-piece band. That's the Beach Boys.
Right.
Okay. They're like the Beatles. There's 5 of them. No Ringo, no Beatles, no Brian, no freaking Beach Boys. Sorry, Mikey. Right. Let your, check your ego at the door and don't come back here no more. Right? I hate Mike Love. Can't stand the man. What a pig.
I hear you. Our good friend Dave, I Am Hop Frog, who's welcome to join the show. He said he sent me something in Messenger. And what he sent me, it says, well, let me put my glasses on here, folks. Oops. Boy, I caught my microphone. Reflex is like a fox.
He doesn't use those glasses because he needs them, folks. He just uses them because it makes him look studious. Cool. And this way you guys know how hard he works for you.
Okay. What he says is he's playing the part of Mike Love tonight. I'm not, right. Yeah, my $2 reading glasses. So,
there's only one way to deal with a man like Mike Love, and that is to hate him back twice as hard. Okay, that freak. God, I could name. He's claimed to have written, co-written back in the USSR because McCartney in India said, "Yeah, I've been thinking of doing like a Beach Boy thingy song. And of course, he took that little bit of conversation and has made claims. And at that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, he cut the Beatles down. They wish they were Beach Boys. What an asshole.
Oh, geez.
See, you got to hate somebody back like that twice as hard.
Right.
You don't take well, I wish Mike Love was, oops, he stepped in it this time, Mildred. Not me, baby.
Right.
Never. Assholes are assholes. And he's the biggest one in that whole genre, subgenre of rock. Surf rock, Mike Love, the biggest asshole poster boy of surf rock,
Well, I first fell in love with that sound when I was growing up. It was in the mid 60s, okay? Yeah. And across the street neighbors, they had okay, here we go. I get it now. Hey, Dave, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Dave.
Hello. Hey.
I am not Mike Love. Okay.
Hi, Dave.
That's what you were trying to tell me.
I was
that was funny.
in the chat when Michael started going off about Mike Love. I go, oh,
Hey, well, okay. So what I was saying was, okay, across the street,
he's such an easy target.
My best friend's older brother Ronnie was in a car club, and all the guys had the plaque in the back window. It was real popular back then. I don't remember what it was called, but they all had the coolest looking cars. $300 paint jobs. They looked like $1 million. They all took their cars down to Tijuana, Mexico. It had either tuck and roll or diamond tuck interior. But you take your own thread because the thread they use is too cheap and it'll break on you. So you take a thick thread down there with you. Then they'd say, watch them stuff the seats with foam because they might stuff them with pot. Get your address off your registration and come and cut your seats open and take the pot out. So there were things you had to know. But my whole point is I got way off track there. God, that music, the car club would meet there once a week at Ronnie Workman's house, and full volume, the Beach Boys, not just the Beach Boys, but I mean Jan and Dean, Dick Dale, some of the others would be blasting, and I would be sitting there with my door open, just loving every damn minute of it. What a sound, what a damn sound. Okay, so George Peters says some of the greatest harmonies come from the Beach Boys. How can you not say enough about the Beach Boys harmonies, Michael?
Agreed.
They absolutely
this is where they
worked on that. They studied it and they worked on it.
Yes. And that's all due to Brian's approach too, because he heard harmony and everything. He has said that I have said as a songwriter, harmony is everything when it's placed well. And then we've also got bands like the Beach Boys. We've talked about this before, Royce. Some people, you've got the Beatles. They sound like they should be brothers, because there's not anything quite like John, Paul, George for the most part harmonizing together. But then but they don't have any common background other than, hey, hi, I'm Paul. Hey, your breath stinks of whiskey. That's how they met. But with the brothers, with the Beach Boys, you've got family, 4/5 of it, and a very good friend who was so heavily influenced by rubbing up against that family and the goings on with that family's, musical background and everything, that he almost grafted his voice into it as well. Al is almost as organic as the other four, but the other four have freaking DNA binding those voices, like the Everly brothers. Oh God, how golden their voices were, and they're brothers. With the Beach Boys, for the most part, that's what I hear with their best vocals. With them at their best.
No, that's right. That's right. Let me say hi to Frank James. I haven't seen him in a while. Recently I have, but good to see you here, brother. Thanks so much. Now, let's see if our buddy Dave here, I am Hop Frog, has got some Beach Boy stories for us.
I'd agree with Frank's comment that you had up regarding Sly maybe doing more on a social level than Brian. I have no problem with that assessment, Frank. I think that's fair. Sly broke down many more social norms than Brian Wilson. Both were talented. I like SAF's tune more than the Beach Boys. And you know what? For the most part, yeah. On any given day, I'd rather, crank me some Sly and the Family over Help Me Rhonda. Although when I'm in the mood for Help Me Rhonda, Sly be damned, I want Help Me Rhonda.
Right.
Right. Get her out of my heart.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know. They're all good songs. I mean,
you gotta
every single one of them gets stuck in your head.
Royce, with the Beach Boys, you kind of got to place they're kind of, whether they, even despite Good Vibrations and even the more advanced California Girls than what came before that,
right.
You kind of got to put yourself in time to listen to them, just like you got to place yourself in the century of Vivaldi when you sit down and you listen to Four Seasons. You can't just put on Vivaldi and expect Led Zeppelin 2. That's not going to ring your chimes. But if you put your headspace and allow, and then listen to the Beach Boys, they sound fresh, they sound sparkly, they sound snappy, man.
Yeah. No, that's right. That's right. Hey guys, let's talk about this for a second. We've got Michael Edward Love _Edward_Love. He says it was all for the fans. John Slootby was not a favorite of mine either, or mine, but you got to give the fans what they want. Moondoggy.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny. Hey, Michael,
you know what? That's good, Michael. But I still just don't dig the tune.
Michael, you sound like a pretty big Beach Boys fan. Do you ever go to that show Beach Boy Talk that the two brothers do? If you did, you probably met my friend Daddy Bog, who's over there all the time. He's a big fan.
I have mad respect for Daddy Bog. You know that, Royce.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish he was up on this panel to counter me tonight, because he'd do a damn good job doing it, first of all. I'm just giving my honest responses to them. I think I've been respectful to the Beach Boys, but, to me, I guess for me, it's always, I'm a major Brian Wilson fan, less so of a Beach Boy fan, although I'm a Beach Boy fan. It's like Brian Wilson is definitely in my top 10 artists who have done more for rock list, and the Beach Boys as a band would be in my top 50. Okay, and yet they are intertwined. But the bigger story, I think, to be real basic, look, Brian, none of the other Beach Boys were true geniuses.
Yeah.
Brian Wilson was.
Yeah.
No, okay. That's right. And you know what? People used to pair the Beach Boys versus the Beatles much more than the Beatles versus the Rolling Stones.
Right.
Those two, there was always that conversation. Who do you like more?
Well, the Stones were copying the Beatles, but the Beatles were being influenced by Pet Sounds to create Sgt. Pepper. That ought to tell you who was higher on the food chain as far as the Beatles were concerned. Right. They weren't copying the Stones. They weren't being influenced by the Stones. Instead, the Stones, quite the opposite, put out Her Majesty Satanic whatever Secret Service album, And
actually not a bad album. I have it.
And I just listened to it fresh for the first time sometime last summer, and it's got its moments, but it's no Sgt. Pepper, not even close, But that's my opinion. But I'm putting together a list of psychedelic songs, Chris, for a future stream that I had promised. It was too big of a thing for tonight. Yeah. And the Stones are well, represented. Yep. That would hit the list, of course. Mm-hmm. About 8 or 9 Beatles songs hit the list. Couple of Stones songs hit the list, and then you've got your. You
got to get some Cream in there.
Yeah, Cream is in there. Yeah. White Room was the first one that came to me right away. That's psychedelic.
Jefferson Airplane, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's just the greatest songs, the probably more well-known songs, but I want it to be all inclusive, and then I want to do a stream on why, because the whole thing came out of drug use by artists and them creating something in music being influenced by the drug use, and often the art was visual too. Why did it translate so easily to the non-user? It was very popular. So what happened?
That's an interesting question. Yeah.
One of the panel asked this tonight. I think it was Chris that said, and yet a lot of good stuff came out of music because of drugs, right?
Right.
Well,
right.
Is that true with psychedelic music? Did they go inside through the use of LSD, unlock something that's hidden in all of us, produce this music and all this master? This is going to be the theme of the stream, this masterful work, and yet non-users liked it as much. Did they unlock something that, when presented to non-users, unlocked something in non-users?
Well, that's
Right?
I think it's just the power of music.
I will think that through and give you an answer.
Well, you know what? It was a very...
Of course, I wasn't a non-user, so I really can't.
Yeah. Well, neither was I. And that's why I got into it to begin with. I wasn't a non-user. Yeah. Oh, boy.
Right.
Sergeant Pepper sounded really good tonight,
Oh yeah,
But
I agree with Stephanie here that Sergeant Pepper's blew Pet Sounds away. I mean, no
I
comparison.
thoroughly agree.
I
but
absolutely love Sergeant Pepper's.
You do have to give, and you know what I said about Pet Sounds. I think it's overrated. I think it's bloated. I think there's some genius stuff on it, and overall, it's probably a genius work. You almost have to agree with that. But it's just it just doesn't ring my chimes when I listen to it. Very pedestrian to me.
Al Val here up on the screen says Pet Sounds is a very melancholy album, but it's beautiful.
But it's beautiful, and 99% of people would agree with you, Al. And it's good to see you in the chat. I haven't seen you in a while. And I understand that. I'm just giving my honest evaluation.
No, and that's what we want to hear, really.
How I've collected albums. I never bought Pet Sounds on vinyl. I did buy it on CD used because you could. This is back when you could get used CDs for about $10, $9.99.
Yeah,
and which was real good in those days. That was like over half price off by the time it got down to there. And I picked it up and I went, eh.
Let me ask the whole panel. Let me ask the whole panel a question. Al Val says Pet Sounds inspired Sergeant Pepper's. Now I'm having a hard time making that connection, but maybe that's just me. What do you guys think?
Well, it did. Paul McCartney has said so many times. He said that he heard that. I even gave an example of Paul McCartney for Penny Lane, which was for Sgt. Pepper. He told Jeff Emmerich, I want that clean Beach Boys sound. So he went in without a metronome, without Ringo tapping, who was known as the human metronome. He went in and he laid keyboard after keyboard after keyboard for Penny Lane. Penny Lane, there is, and he just did that. And they added keyboard and keyboard. Jeff Emmerich later said that it got so bad that the first keyboard they laid down got buried so far into the mix, you practically couldn't hear it anymore. And finally, McCartney was happy. This came as a direct result of the Beatles being inspired, along with Paul admitting it. He's absolutely right. Sgt. Pepper wouldn't have been what it was without the Beach Boys.
Yeah. Okay. Any other opinions on that?
I'm just laughing at the comment. When I said I was playing the part of Michael Love, I was kind of trolling in the chat because of some of the stuff Michael was saying, and I brought up the But
Well, we have another Mike Love that's up right now, and he's making some great comments. Can you bring up the Pet Sounds album again, please? Notice how I am standing.
That was me typing in the chat under a different account.
It all makes sense now.
That's why I said I was playing the part of Mike Love, just so you wouldn't say, "Oh, there's this problems." I was just kind of trying to throw some humor. But if you do look at Pet Sounds, you'll all see of them all are feeding animals, except for Mike Love, who's hiding in the back, like, I don't want any part of these animals.
And you know what? I got to be honest. What a horrible album cover! My God, it's like a snapshot at the zoo. You know, how rock and roll is that?
People did say that about Pink Floyd, Adam Hartmother. That was a good one.
Yeah.
You're talking about the cow.
The cow.
But see, it was. But you got to understand that was Hypnosis, wasn't it? That did that.
Yeah.
Look at the angle of the cow. Somehow it was so art. See, I'm talking about the Pet Sounds looks like a damn family photo from a Kodak film.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look that grainy, but it might as well be that. And Adam Hartmother's got this amazing angle on the cow. There's an artistic angle to the color balance of the album. It somehow makes sense. But I hear you, Dawson. But to me, I'm just saying, you know, when I saw it, it was like, I saw it in the stores when it came out. There was no urge, just based on the cover alone, to run out and get that thing. Now, their first album with them on the Woody and all that, I want one of those.
Oh yeah, you know? Totally. Okay, guys, listen. Let's
remember we were talking before about how album covers can kind of influence your first opinion at it. When I first saw that album in my parents, like in the album collections when I was a kid, just the picture of the album turned me off. I didn't even want to listen to it. It was like, okay, how are you going to take this seriously when it looks like that?
Yeah, it looks like, you know,
was just that tall when I first.
Looks like an episode from, I don't know, you know, the Muppets.
Yeah.
Back in the day on Channel 9, you know, or on KQED or wherever you were to get your public TV, you know. Now, see, that first photo. That first photo. There's the Beach Boys, guys. Look, real Brian Wilson on a real bass guitar.
Right.
And Al Jardine. Yeah, Al Jardine on a real serious guitar. You know, Michael Love pretending he's a musician. And, you know, everybody's playing their instruments, you know. But that's them, and that's them.
Oh, yeah.
To me, yeah.
Right.
You kind of got to lock them in time, don't you, Royce?
Yes, you do. I'll show a couple of pictures that I didn't show while this show was on.
Oh yeah, there's a good one.
That's the Sly I remember.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. We're done with those. Okay, guys. Listen.
I got my sunscreen.
Oh, you got your sunscreen. Okay. I wanna go through some more of this narrative here. Of course, we all know that Brian Wilson was the force behind the Beach Boys. Is celebrated for his musical genius, and that's the honest to God truth right there. As a songwriter, producer, and arranger, pioneering the use of studio as an instrument and transforming pop music with his ambitious and innovative sound. He also, was inducted into both the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the Beach Boys, of course, and the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and received the Kennedy Center honors. Okay, his album Michael Pet Sounds is considered a masterpiece, and his unreleased project Smile was eventually completed to critical acclaim. Critical acclaim, folks. Okay, so Brian Wilson experienced a range. Yeah, I don't want to touch on this too much because I wanted this to be as upbeat as you can make a memorial show. Brian Wilson experienced a range of mental health and personal challenges. Okay.
Hey, Royce, I just wanted to say this before you get into this as a segue. Let's go with the darker side because guess what? He passed through it, those dark sides. He did pass through it, I had a dark time in my life. I had to pass through it. I never pretend that I wasn't an alcoholic. I'm still a recovering alcoholic. It's part of my success story. And guess
there
what?
you go. Right.
This was his.
I get it.
This wasn't his weakness. These were his challenges. That's the way I like to look
His
at it.
challenges. I like that. I like
And he
that.
had a lot of them.
Well, okay. So his personal challenges throughout his life, including schizoaffective disorder, depression, drug abuse, and dementia. These issues led to periods of seclusion, erratic behavior, and dependence on others, including a controversial therapist. And I read the story about the therapist.
It wasn't all bad, Royce. He wound up with a beach all around his piano.
Yeah. Well, that's right. That's right. He brought all that sand into his house.
Yeah.
Had all those people hanging out in there. It was like a crazy thing, you know. So
and ate 5 hamburgers a sitting.
Right. So anyway, he actually co-founded the Beach Boys in '61 and was their primary songwriter and producer. He led the creation of their distinctive California sound. And what a sound that was. I mean, that was an upbeat, fun sound. The Beach Boys' early music featuring harmonies and lyrics about surfing, cars, youthful adventures, girls, became synonymous with the vibrant California lifestyle of the 60s. I tell you what, it was music like that made me decide at a young age, I'm getting out of this desert here in Henderson, Nevada, and I'm moving to California. That and the fact that we would take trips there every summer because my dad had, we had aunts and uncles there. My dad had brothers and sisters, and I had cousins. And anyway, so I liked it.
And this weird, strange hitchhiker came up to Royce one day and said, California is the place you ought to be.
So we loaded up the truck and we moved to Beverly. Okay, so here I am. My dad takes me to the family to the ocean. When we went to California, we made the rounds. We go Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, go down to Marine World. We tried to do everything in 1 2-week trip, and as well as see my dad's, 10 brothers and sisters and all my cousins. So anyway, so we go to the beach, and I'm out there in the water, and the sun is starting to go down a little bit, and I'm standing there, and off in the distance, I see young people surfing, and I'm like, I don't know, 12 years old. And I'm standing there, and bang, something hits me in the side of the leg, and I look up. Well, first I look down to see what hit me, and there was a big yellow surfboard, a longboard, probably 10 feet long. And I look up, and here's this absolute goddess in a yellow bikini with blonde hair saying, "Thanks for stopping my board." Damn thing almost knocked me over. Thanks. But anyway, so and that almost cemented it right then and there. I am moving to freaking California. I don't care if I have to crawl there on my hands and knees. I'm going to California. Anyway, so Wilson pushed pop music. Well, first of all, he co-wrote and produced numerous iconic hits for the Beach Boys, including Surfing USA, I Get Around, Help Me Rhonda, and the groundbreaking Good Vibrations. And I love that song, okay? Wilson pushed pop music boundaries by creating complex, multi-layered compositions, guys, transforming pop music into an emotional autobiography, okay? Okay, so let's talk about some of his groundbreaking albums. We've pretty much been talking about them, though. Pet Sounds, 1966, considered one of the greatest albums of all time. I know not everybody agrees on that. It's known for its innovative production, intricate arrangements, and introspective lyrics. Rolling Stone, with all that credibility they have, ranks at number 2 on their list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. I was waiting for that. The Smile Project.
The source, folks.
I know. I said that. The Smile Project was completed and released as Brian Wilson Presents Smile in 2004, earning critical acclaim and a Grammy Award. So, okay. So let's talk about the Beach Boys' musical innovations. Wilson employed intricate harmonies and orchestral sections. He utilized unconventional instruments like the theremin, and sound effects to create unique sonic landscapes. Wilson pioneered modular recording recording and piecing together different parts of a song to build the final track. Okay. Wilson utilized studio techniques, the layering dozens of tracks using echo chambers and experimenting with sounds to evoke emotions and create unprecedented sonic environments. Okay, so let's talk about now influence and recognition. Wilson's innovative approach inspired numerous artists across genres, including the Beatles, Pink Floyd, The Who, and many others. Wilson was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of the Beach Boys in '88. He was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2000. About time, Wilson received 2 Grammy Awards, including one for the song Mrs. O'Leary's Cow from Brian Wilson's Presents Smile, and another for the Best Historical Album for the Smiles Sessions. Okay. He received the prestigious Kennedy Center honors in 2007 for his lifetime contribution to the performing arts, personal journey, and resilience. Let's talk about his personal journey. And we can get into this a little deeper if you'd like, Michael. Despite struggles with mental health and substance abuse, Wilson's perseverance allowed him to continue creating music and performing, inspiring fans and fellow musicians. Wilson made a successful return to music, releasing solo albums and performing live, including tours celebrating Pet Sounds and Smile. Brian Wilson's successful return to music, releasing solo albums and performing live, included tours celebrating Pet Sounds and Smile. Excuse me, folks. Brian Wilson's legacy as a musical titan is, of course, undeniable. His groundbreaking work with the Beach Boys, his innovative studio techniques, and his ability to infuse popular music with emotional depth have left an indelible mark on the landscape of music. He's survived by 7 children, including his 2 daughters, Carney and Wendy, from the marriage to Marilyn Wilson Rutherford, as well as his 5 adopted children with the late wife, Melinda Ledbetter. And Brian Wilson experienced a range of mental health and personal challenges throughout his life.
Wait a minute, you're saying Brian Wilson remarried and married a bedwetter?
Yes, Ledbetter, not bedwetter, Ledbetter.
Just a little levity for the folks out there.
No, I hear you, brother. I hear you. Okay. All right, that's all the narrative I've got here, folks. So if you want to talk about more of the mental illness and, you know, how he persevered and worked his way through that and actually toured again and things like that, that's pretty amazing, I think.
Well, I would like to just bring up the fact that these are Grand Canyon's deep problems for the human psyche to overcome. 98% of those who are hooked on drugs or alcohol or substances of any type die as a direct result of their disease. He didn't. He won. It would have been nice to have a 90-year-old Brian Wilson, of course, but you know, every time he was seen, he was getting more fragile and fragile.
Yeah.
It's always too early to lose somebody of his import.
Always,
you know?
Yes.
I mean, he could be 108 and everybody go, oh, it's too bad he didn't make it to 110. But the deal is that he won more often than he lost, I think. And they were insurmountable odds. I can tell you from my personal life, you know, it takes something beyond you to turn that shit around.
Yeah.
And somehow, whatever it was, you know, and he tried many times. Sometimes with a guru, you couldn't trust to go and buy you a McDonald's Big Mac and come back with the right amount of change. You know?
Right, Michael. Let me. Right, that used to happen when we'd give older guys money to buy us.
Hey, Daddy.
You know?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, Daddy Boggs, I have a link up. We have been wondering where you were all night. Would you
Were your
please?
ears ringing?
I have a link up, brother. Daddy Boggs, hit that link and come on up.
All right, I'm going to jump in here, guys. I got something that hasn't been brought up at all that is in this book, and it talks about, and it kind of goes along with his mental health aspect. And it goes on. I'm going to pick it up from 1963. They just put out Surf City, Surfing in the USA, Surfer Girl, all that. So jump forward to 1964. It says, towards the end of the same year, however, Brian Wilson began to suffer pressure of stress and overwork. With a nervous breakdown early in 1965, Brian announces his decision to stop touring with the band and instead mastermind their recording career from behind the scenes. Bruce Johnson was drafted in as his replacement after a brief stay by Glenn Campbell. Then by now, the singles Help Me Rhonda and California Girls were beginning to evolve new subtleties in composition and production. Slowly, however, the Beach Boys and their creative mastermind had begun to drift apart. While group toured the world, Brian started hanging out with Van Dyke Parks, later to write Beach Boys lyrics, started dropping acid, and went through a period of attempting to disown his own musical past. The masterwork Pet Sounds was, in fact, put together under heavy contractual pressures from Capitol Records and not at all approved by the rest of the group when they returned to the U.S. from tour. So the band was touring without him while he was recording their albums.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So it was received. Pet Sounds was received well by critics and by the Beach Boys aficionados in the UK, but bombed in the US. However, though not as influential as contemporary Beatles album Revolver, Pet Sounds did set totally new standards in arrangement and production that diverted pop onto unforeseen track. The Beatles' status of the time is more than passing interest here, because Brian Wilson was, by all accounts, possessed of quite acute feelings of competitiveness towards a British group. Thus, the commercial failure of Pet Sounds dented his pride badly, a blow only slightly eased by the gold record sales for the revolutionary Good Vibrations.
And don't forget that Brian Wilson was inspired to do Pet Sounds after listening to the Revolver album, I believe it was.
Hey,
right?
Michael,
so it went both ways.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Bronze Snake has a comment up here, and he's hoping one of us, his wife's mother's name is Nolan. Will one of you do the band show, please?
The band show.
The band. A show on the band.
Oh, the band. Yeah.
We did that. We covered the band a while back when we talked about supergroups. So.
Yeah, we did.
Right.
Yeah,
anyway,
quite a bit.
Continue on with this because this kind of ties everything in that we were talking about.
Okay.
Okay. And then after Good Vibrations, one of the best pop singles of all time, later that same year. Great. Then followed the most enigmatic period in the Brian Wilson / Beach Boys career, the Smile album project with new lyricist Van Dyke Parks. With the group on his back to produce more commercial material, they also harbored a deep resentment towards Parks. Hey, right. Mike, there you go.
Hey.
Wilson saw Smile as his tour de force, his masterpiece, which would give the Beatles their comeuppance and show the watching world that Brian Wilson, the artistic genius, was where the direction of pop was really at.
Right.
Yet the new album.
Hey, Chris. Oh, I have a true Beach Boys expert here, Daddy Bog.
Give me 2 seconds and I'll finish. And Daddy Bog can take over.
Okay, good. All right,
wrap
go
this
ahead.
up. I know it was just a few paragraphs from the book. I'm almost done.
Yeah.
We'll tie in. Okay, the Smile album was plagued by bad vibes and slow materialization. And when, in spring of 1967, the Beatles released Sgt. Pepper to unprecedented universal acclaim, Brian Wilson withdrew into a state of sustained paranoia. One theory is that Wilson realized Smile could only come out to be second best in comparison to Sgt. Pepper. and thus decided to withdraw from the battle. Whatever the truth, Wilson only took 3 of 4 songs that he had prepared for Smile, omitting the epic Surf's Up, wrote a bunch of new material, and released the same under the title Smiley Smile in 1967. And then it just goes on. It says a sequence of critically unfavored albums followed.
Okay, right on.
Hey, Royce,
okay,
I'm going to have to bow out at this point. Good to see you, Daddy Bug. I'll be in the gallery, so take me to task.
Okay, thank you, brother. Okay.
All right,
okay,
man.
well,
Night, folks.
Good night, everybody.
Good stream today, Michael.
The first thing I want to say is if there's anybody that hasn't hit the thumbs up button, please do so. It helps spread the show out to a wider audience. And one last impassioned plea, if there's anybody watching at the moment that is not a subscriber, whether you're watching now or you watch the show later, if you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. Doesn't cost anything, just helps the show continue growing, makes us feel a little better about what we're doing and all the time we're spending. So anyway, thank you all so much. And we are going to pull up Daddy Boggs. Daddy Boggs and I go back about 5 years. And, we go back to the era where, Caitlin Stoddard and Daddy Boggs and Bill Kay and Jeff Davidson, we all kind of started at the same show years ago. Daddy Boggs, how are you tonight? Your volume's down low.
Still can't hear you.
Still can't hear you, yeah.
Still can't hear you.
No, can't. I don't know what's going on. You've got something turned off there, brother. I don't know what it is, Is your mic obviously must be turned on, but can you hear me? Daddy Boggs, can you hear me? Just shake your head if you can. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's working, but you can hear us. We just can't hear you. No, nothing.
It's probably something muted in his headset or something, or
switch.
Okay. Wow.
Just trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, no, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, I was very familiar with the Beach Boys. They played in my house all the time. Not the band, but the music was always playing ever since I can remember.
Okay.
Oversaturated with it, so I'm like, I respect. I'm not a fan, really.
Well, yeah. Just go ahead. And keep talking while we're waiting here. And I know that you've got a lot of musical knowledge. So.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I probably heard every single Beach Boys album many times over, along with Jamie, and seen all the tribute bands play locally. And
right.
I actually saw Dick Dale kind of illegally. Basically, I didn't buy a ticket. I was living in an area and there's a big Fender museum, and I heard somebody just ripping on the guitar, and it was like super, super loud. I pulled my car over because I thought it was somebody's radio. I pull over and there's a block wall, and I look over the block wall, and there's Dick Dale playing for about 300 people, and he was.
Oh, you know what? That's a cool story, Dave. I have a Dick Dale story too. Daddy Boggs, as soon as we can hear you, I'll bring you back up. Okay. But anyway, Dave. Okay, so we have a little San Luis Obispo. I don't know if you've ever been there or not. Central Coast of California. A lot of little bars and stuff. Well, there's a bar called Slow Brew, and you go upstairs. And there's a little stage. I mean, we're talking small, right? Yeah. So I heard Dick Dale was coming. I could not even believe it. I thought I'd be standing outside trying to get in. Get there, and it just looks like a typical night. Nothing special. So we go in and we go upstairs to the small stage, and there's hardly anybody there. Dick Dale and his son and some other band members Dick Dale, talked about his colon cancer a little bit and stuff, and his son had a signature guitar. Dick Dale's son did, coming out with Fender pretty soon, I think it was. Anyway, beyond all that, they started playing, and I, Miserlou and all these songs that I absolutely go crazy for. And I'm standing up front, leaning up against the stage, and I mean, I have elbow room. I'm not packed in there. And people they walk up and they want to go down and get a drink or whatever they're getting when they leave the room. And I'm like, are these people insane? And so I stood there at the front of the stage and watched Dick Dale do his full show. And it was just, oh man, what a night. Yeah. What a night. Yeah. Good music.
I got chased off by security after 2 songs. I'm like, okay. It was a private event. So you couldn't get tickets. It was like by invite only. He's playing outside. It was pretty cool. But I was going to say, as far as like Pet Sounds and Sgt. Pepper, there's one guy who goes with 2 of his buddies, says, hold my beer for a second, because this came out in '67.
Oh yeah. I have a couple of copies of that.
Arguably better than the both Sgt. Pepper and Pet Sounds. Arguably,
but I know everybody.
Oh, I will argue. As much as I love Sgt. Pepper's, I would argue in favor of that. And, the biggest reason I love Sgt. Pepper's is my older brother, who is 9 years my senior, would invite us out to his house, me and my friends, and none of us at the time had a car. We'd hitchhike to Las Vegas and go in and party with my older brother, and he'd put Sgt. Pepper's on, and it just became part of me, man. And other things too. He might pop on the Cream, and he might Magical Mystery Tour came out, and that became part of the playlist. But we just go out there and kind of get a little buzzed and listen to that music, and we had a great time. That was probably the closest I've ever been to my older brother. I was 15 and he was 24. He's a crap stealer in Las Vegas, aspiring actor, and we had he was a funny guy too, a smart and funny guy. We had a lot of fun. Okay, Boggs looks like he's back. Hey, Daddy Boggs, can you hear us? Oh my God! Oh, I'm sorry.
Shit.
Wow. Well,
I have a story about Brian Wilson, although it's,
okay.
Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll save it, because there's no sense talking ill of the dead. It was just a bad experience at one of his concerts. I had mentioned it on here before, but I won't speak of it now. I'll have a little respect for him.
Oh, well, well, I understand that. Yeah.
I think the one common thread with all these bands today is family. Beach Boys were family. Sly and the Family Stone was pretty much family, and just like common themes and today. I think the other one would probably be like dancing or movement, almost, because hearing Beach Boys for the first time, you can't. It's almost impossible not to just stand up and move around. And even when I was watching the Sly and the Family Stone DVD or the thing, I was at home in my living room, but I was standing up and moving around and dancing. So there's a couple of similarities here.
Right. I can definitely understand that watching Sly and the Family Stone. He had everybody on their feet swaying to the music.
See, one thing, Dawson, to touch on what you're saying is myself, I prefer Sly and the Family Stone, and I can take his music a little more serious. The Beach Boys, just because of how I heard it as a kid, it's something you play for fun at a party or something. I can't sit there and listen to the Beach Boys for more than 3 or 4 songs in a row before I have to change station. Sly and the Family Stone, I can sit there and listen to one of his albums. The Beach Boys, it just, after a while, they all start to sound the same, and it's all the same. Okay, give me something new. And maybe that's just my opinion. I mean, I respect their music and everything, but I have the greatest hits, and that's all I need. And even half of that I don't like. So, well, I don't like it, but I prefer other stuff over it.
Well, I hear you. I mean, I've always liked, I definitely see big differences in the songs and stuff like that. I've always liked the Beach Boys, and I grew up with them, and maybe that helps. I grew up with them back in a time when people would debate, who do you like the best, the Beach Boys or the Rolling Stones? I'd be arguing with my California cousins, and we'd take turns naming hits. I'd name a Beatles hit, they'd name a Beach Boys hit until we ran out of songs, and then you just had
well,
a
I
good
probably know
laugh
just
about
about
it.
all of the Beach Boys songs. Like I said, I like the music, but I can't take it as serious as I can some other stuff. I just find it's just almost, I don't know, it's just too, maybe I just heard it in too many times at a party or something, and not necessarily where I'm listening to all my dads and my cousins and all their records, and they got Zeppelin, the Stones, Deep Purple, all that stuff. Beach Boys just didn't really seem to fit. Although when I was at my memes and I was borrowing records from the library, the public library, I would get Beach Boys songs then because it was a more of a mellow mood at my memes. So the Beach Boys, the Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel, Neil Young, stuff like that. So different ways to take the Beach Boys myself.
Yeah.
Well, we're in Canada, Chris, so we can't really relate to the beach unless it's summertime.
And hey, even the beach here in Windsor, we had to close, and we're going to relocate it because too many people have drowned lately.
Jeez.
Oh wow.
Because it's right it's on one of the fastest moving parts of the Detroit River. It was a bad spot to put the beach to start with.
Oh man, that's terrible. Hello, Richard. Good to see you here, brother. Thank you. I just left you. I just said hi to you in the chat.
Rick Derringer, Garth Hudson. There was another drummer that just passed away.
Yeah, too bad Daddy Boggs couldn't get on. You know, Daddy Boggs is he recently sold most of his collection. He had all kinds of stuff, and he still has a lot of stuff. But we used to, you know, I've had him on. The last time I had a Beach Boys show, Daddy Boggs, I invited him, and he joined me, and he told me about some other Beach Boys shows, and one of them was called Beach Boy Talk, and it was two brothers, and all they would do is talk about the Beach Boys, you know. And Daddy Boggs was a regular there, and I started going as a regular for a while too. It was fun. But anyway, we're working our way through the chat while you guys are talking. And what was Dave? What was your introduction to the Beach Boys? Huh?
Oh yeah. Oh, just my dad would play them all the time.
I got you.
The time. Blasted out of the garage and everything. So it was a Beach Boys and everything related to that. So.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember when I was a little kid. We might have had one Beach Boy album. I can't remember, but I know there was a couple of Beatles albums in the house. My dad was into country music, so there was like Hank Williams Sr., who to this day I still like. And about a year ago, I bought his greatest hits on vinyl. And I like all that outlaw country stuff with Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and Waylon Jennings. I like all those songs. I still do. I didn't like them when my dad was trying to cram them down my throat. In my house, it was mandatory hee-haw night. The door would swing open. You'd be out playing with your friends, whatever the game was, and it'd be, "It's on." You go home and watch hee-haw. And you know what? We learned to love it, and we sit there and laugh all the way through it. And you had Roy Clark, just an insane guitar player, and Buck Owens, funny guy, and then all those girls with the shorts on, jean shorts on. But anyway, it was actually a fun show to watch. But I was rock and roll all the way. I could have fun watching that, but I was rock and roll all the way. We said Dwayne Walatica's here. We got Oberheim, my buddy from mate from down under. No worries, mate. No worries. Boy, I went to Australia to go surfing right after 9/11. We actually postponed the trip. We were going to stop in Bali, Indonesia on the way. There's great surf there too. And then 9/11 hit, so we pushed it back a couple of months, and we got there. Man, I tell you what, I love the Australians. That's one country I know that I could live in, and be just as happy as I am here. They say, "Oh, you're from America. Let's go get them, mate. Let's go get them. We're with you." They wanted to go over there and just mess up the whole Middle East, after 9/11. It was like they had our back. I was like, wow, man, I love these guys. There was other things I loved about Australia too. It's like over here, you could be sitting at a table made for four, and nobody wants to sit at your table because it's your table. Over there and you sit down at a table made for four, you and your wife, and guy and his wife will walk up and just sit down. That's normal there. It's really weird how that's not normal here. And in the restaurants, you don't leave a big tip, and there's a tip jar on the counter for, you know, for a pittance. You know, you don't look like, you don't pay them 20% for a tip. And so what happens is, you know, I mean, you might be done with your meal before your wife's even gets delivered, you know, because they just don't give a shit, I guess. But I remember one time we were up in the hinterlands, and we went in there, we ate, and I ordered a milkshake. And first of all, like I was telling you, the meals came at different times. And finally, I look at this waitress, you know, cute young woman, you know, and I said, hey, you forgot my milkshake. And she looks at me indignant and goes, well, did you survive? And I'm like, well, yeah, just scratch it off the list, okay? Now I'm feeling like an idiot for asking, you know. So anyway, it was a lot of fun, though. I loved being there. We went up and down the Golden Sunshine Coast, surfing, all kinds of crazy stuff, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I have a real affection for anybody from Australia, having visited over there. Okay, Daddy Boggs, do you have YouTube on your cell phone? There you go, Boggs, cell phone.
Yeah, you could use your phone if you need to.
Yeah. Well, you know, we'll give him a few more minutes. We're probably going to close down now. It's like 8:40. Been going for over 2 hours, but I expected that with kind of a double show. You know what I mean? Yeah. I hope everybody enjoyed it. You know, it's like it's easy to get off in one direction or another while you're doing this. Anyway, so I had a good time tonight, and I want to thank everybody that's, you know, part of my panel. Been up here on the panel with me, Michael Nolan, who was up here and is gone now. Thanks, Dawson, for showing up. And how's your channel doing, Dawson?
It's doing pretty good. I'm streaming probably multiple times a week, either on Caitlin's show or on.
Yeah, no, I see it, Caitlin.
Oh yeah,
who's the other show? Who's the other show? Oh, Paul. Yeah, Psycho Splatters. Yeah.
No, I haven't been on his one yet, but James, it'd be James Bowie on Sundays.
Oh yeah, Sir James.
So yeah, I'm just you know, I'm around the horn. I'm around the area.
Well, you know, that's a really good way to, you know, get your feet wet and start meeting a lot of people, you know.
Oh, for sure. I think for the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson, yeah, I wrote a list earlier, probably a couple months ago, getting ready for summer concerts. I had a list of about 10 artists. He was on there. Elton John was on there, and just artists that I haven't seen yet. And so he's definitely up there in the echelon of great music artists. And you know, I got my Pet Sounds over there upstairs. I got my Sgt. Pepper, and
yeah, but, I've got 2 Sgt. Peppers. One might be my original from about 16, 17 years old. And I'm same with my Jimi Hendrix, my older one. But yeah, I've got 2 Elton John. Well, I've got a lot of Elton John, but I have 2 of the Yellow Brick Road. I had none, and I was looking for a good used copy, you know, rather than pop for a brand new double album, you know. And I never could find a good used copy, so I went out to Boo Boo Records in San Luis Obispo, bought a brand new one, and it wasn't the very damn next day I went into one of my favorite used record sales stores, and there was a copy that looked like it was brand spanking new. Everything in it was perfect. And so I bought that one too. So now I have the new remastered I bought and an old original. And I was trying to A-B them, you know, and you could hear the differences. And there was a couple of songs I played them 6 times each before I moved on to the next song. And you know, some people have a knack for doing that. I was standing in the middle of my living room in the dark with my eyes closed, trying to pick out the nuances, you know. And then I'd write down what I thought they were, but I decided I wasn't cut out for that.
But that's one of the albums that you have to A/B test with that too. So yeah, definitely good on you for doing that.
Yeah. So anyway, folks, I want to, you know, thank everybody in the chat. I mean, each and everybody in the chat. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support. Well, you don't want to come to a show and nobody shows up, you know. And we've had just a wonderful chat. A lot of people have been showing up, supporting the channel, leaving great comments. Let us know how you liked the Sly and the Family Stone show and the Brian Wilson show. Sly Stone and Brian Wilson. Let us know if you enjoyed the shows. Be good to hear from you. It's okay, Daddy Boggs. No worries. No worries. We'll get you on any other time you want. You're always. I always tell you this. You're always welcome to come on the show. It doesn't have to be the Beach Boys. We like. Yeah, you're a wealth of knowledge on so many bands, and just hanging out with you is a lot of fun too. Appreciate you being here. So anyway, thanks to everybody in the chat, and I want to thank everybody on the panel. Michael Nolan, who's retired from the panel now but is watching, and appreciate every one of you, each and every one of you, and that's what's happening in Royce's world tonight. If you haven't watched my video I put on last night on Tom Petty's Last Dance with Mary Jane, please check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's only about 10 minutes long, but we talk about what does that song, what is the meaning of that song, and the video, the actual video. Have you seen anybody here seen the video for that?
Yeah, I watched it earlier today.
Oh, okay. So you watched it on my channel, or?
Well, I watched it on your channel, and then after that, I watched a series of Tom Petty videos.
Okay, right on. Okay. That's a real game changer on what you thought it was about, isn't it?
Well, actually, no. I personally, I think the 2 points you made combined were it. I think it was for a dying marriage, and his wife. You were saying she didn't want to leave him alone, so I think if you just put them back together, I think that potentially.
You know what, Chris, you're probably right. I've had other people say the same thing. This was kind of a. This wasn't one technically.
His video. I mean, if you go by what people do in a video, you could have 1,000 meanings to one song, right? So
no, that absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I was glad Daddy Boggs showed up too, Bill K. Thank you. George Pita, my friend, Dwayne Wolotica. Okay. We got Winslow Red Cross.
Everybody take care. Stay safe.
The distance with us. Okay, yeah, we're getting ready to sign off. I'm going to finish scrolling the chat and then say goodnight to everybody. So good night, Chris. Thanks for being here. Wasn't trying to cut you short. I was just trying to get Boggs up there. He hadn't been on in a long time.
Anyway, 12 right now, so I got stuff to do in the morning still.
No, I do too. I got a call for a job. I was happy to hear that. I've been unemployed for a while.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
Keep you busy.
Happy Father's Day. Thank you. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. And we will see you next week. And look for some pre-recorded videos and possibly some members-only videos to come out in this coming week. All right. Thank you all so much, and good night.
Good night.